Hello and thanks for joining us on the news on NTA International at this hour. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Now the headlines. President Muhammad Buhari assures the people of Sahrawi Arab Democratic reports of Nigeria's support for their self-determination. Supreme Court sacks sitting federal legislator as Presidential Election Petitions Court fixes date for ruling on inspection of alleged INEC server by a petitioner. And European Union launches its external investment plan targeting Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. The federal government has restated the commitment of Nigeria towards bringing her influence and resource potential to bear in the task of stabilizing the West African sub-region. President Muhammad Buhari stated this while granting audience to the special representatives of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo completes the story.
Mohammed Ibn Chambers, who represented the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the Democracy Day celebration, expressed Mr. Guterres' personal admiration for President Muhammad Buhari's integrity and quality as a statesman, especially in fighting corruption and driving public accountability. He said the United Nations appreciated the Nigerian leader's commitment to tackling poverty, terrorism, and insurgency, as well as recharging the receding Lake Chad. Mr. Chambers pledged continued technical support of the United Nations to INEC, the nation's electoral umpire, towards the next general elections. United Nations, he also explained, is delighted that Nigeria's permanent representative, Professor Tijani Muhammad Bande, was elected the president of the 74th General Assembly. He described Professor Muhammad Bande as highly regarded by his peers in New York and will undoubtedly be a pride to Nigeria and Africa. President Muhammad Buhari expressed pleasure that the United Nations appreciated his administration's focus on fighting corruption, poverty, and ensuring regional stability. He restated his belief that peaceful relations with Nigeria's neighbors remained imperative in confronting terrorism, insurgency, and other cross-border crimes. In a related development, President Muhammad Buhari received in audience the first Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan, Tabang Deng Gai. Mr. Deng Gai came to seek Nigeria's continued support towards lasting peace, security, and sustainable development in his country. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And still on bilateral visits, President Muhammad Buhari has restated Nigeria's support for the people of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in their quest for self-determination in line with the resolutions of the African Union and the United Nations. This was while receiving in audience the Sahrawi leader, President Brahim Ghali. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo once again reports that the Nigerian leader also received President George Oppong Weah of Liberia.
President Brahim Ghali of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic was in Nigeria in respect of the National Democracy Day celebrations held last Wednesday. His visit to the State House was to formally commend Nigeria's past support for Sadr and the liberation movements on the continent, especially during President Buhari's tenure as military head of state. While congratulating the Nigerian leader on his re-election and the successful Democracy Day celebrations, President Brahim Ghali maintains that the weight of Nigeria's support remained crucial to the final resolution of the continued colonization of his people.
Essentially, they are urging Mr. President to intervene to ensure that the issue of referendum at the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic is undertaken as soon as possible. And Mr. President assured the President of Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic that he is going to do all in his power to make sure that AU and United Nations are energized to be able to hold the referendum in that republic.
President Muhammad Buhari said Nigeria remains committed to supporting efforts of the African Union and the United Nations towards finding lasting solution to the Sahrawi problem. It will be recalled that Nigeria recognized Sadr on November 11, 1984, when President Buhari was head of state. President George Oppongwea of Liberia also came calling at the presidential villa to offer his best wishes as President Muhammadu Buhari began his second four-year term of consolidation. President Weah, who also attended Nigeria's National Democracy Day celebrations, met the Nigerian leader behind closed doors for about 30 minutes, but details of their discussions were not made public.
As you know, Liberia and Nigeria have come a long way. After the initial introductions, actually they retire in for a one-on-one. But essentially, President Weah briefed Mr. President about the situation in Liberia and the emerging challenges in Liberia. I'm sure they have achieved good understanding, and I'm sure Mr. President will also direct further action on all the issues that the Liberian president has raised with him.
President George Oppongwea, who was a former professional footballer, came to office last year as the 25th president of Liberia. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Now to legislative matters. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed optimism that with the new leadership in the National Assembly, the next 4 years of his administration will be more eventful, result-oriented and responsive to the needs and aspirations of Nigeria. This was while receiving in audience the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, on a thank-you visit. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Still basking in the euphoria of his overwhelming election to preside over the 9th House of Representatives, Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila was accompanied to the State House by the new Deputy Speaker Ahmed Idris Wase and other lawmakers. President Muhammadu Buhari, who formally congratulated them for their victory, which he described as well-deserved, urged them to exhibit high sense of responsibility and patriotism in robustly legislating for public good.
Whatever I do is through national interest. For example, the Senate President and you, I didn't know you person to person before I made up my mind. It's just my observation of your performances, commitment to the party and to the country. You have the time for your job. I'm very pleased NTA has picked this priority very well. Whenever I have the time to look at it, somebody is working somewhere. Which is very interesting. So I congratulate you. And the fundamental issue is to maintain focus on national issues. The three fundamental issues are still very relevant to us. The security in the economy, and then try to make everybody accountable at whatever level. This is very, very important because it will earn us the confidence of the people, and then we have more time to do our job.
Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila was full of gratitude to the President for his leadership, proper guidance, and confidence in their abilities to lead and make the desired impact in the National Assembly. And on this, he promised they will not fail to deliver.
The confidence you have reposed in us, we will definitely not disappoint you. As it was painful in the last 4 years, for those of you outside, it was also very painful for us. You have quite a number of members in that house this next 4 years in the 9th Assembly that are ready to champion the cause of this party and your cause, so that you can leave a legacy, a major legacy that will last the test of time in Nigeria before you leave in 4 years. So that's what you're going to consider us, your foot soldiers, your legislators, and we will always give you the objective, the truth of what the situation is. And we'll try and work as much as possible with the executive.
Described as the most experienced lawmaker in the House of Representatives, the new Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, was the leader of the House in the 8th National Assembly, during which the new Deputy Speaker was also the Deputy House Leader. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Still on legislative matters, the Senate has resolved to write to President Muhammadu Buhari to officially inform him that a quorum of the Senate of the 9th Assembly has assembled and that its presiding officers have been elected. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the Senate is also to inform other global and continental bodies.
Entering the chamber after inauguration for their first legislative business. As early as 9 o'clock in the morning, senators had formed a quorum waiting for the Senate President. The first entrance procession of the new presiding officers signaled the commencement of plenary. The number 3 man in similar procession 8 days ago is now number 1. Shortly before commencement of business, the 2 senators who contested in the election had a meeting, a pointer towards a unified Senate. Legislative business kicked off with the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omo-Agege, moving a motion for Senate to communicate to the President.
Informing him that the quorum of the Senate assembled and that the presiding officers of the 9th Assembly of the Senate has been elected as
a message to Mr. President CNC, informing him that a quorum of the Senate has assembled and that the presiding officers of the 9th National Assembly of the Senate have been elected. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The first motion of urgent public importance in the 9th Senate came from Senator Istifanus Gyang from Plateau State. He called for deliberation on the President's Democracy Day speech. The motion was shut down.
In view of the interest it has generated,
say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan announced the composition of an ad hoc committee that will see to the allocation of seats and offices to the new senators within 2 weeks.
Senator Abubakar Kyari, Chairman.
Senate sworn in Senator Rochas Okorocha, representing Imo West Senatorial District of Imo State.
But without the judiciary, I wouldn't have been here. And I also want to thank the INEC for holding up boldly and doing the right thing.
Now with this inauguration, 108 senators have been inaugurated, remaining 1 from Imo North. Senate has adjourned till Tuesday, the 2nd of July 2019 from the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, ATN News.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has directed its clerk to notify President Muhammadu Buhari on the election of its Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, and Deputy Speaker, Ahmed Idris, for the 9th Assembly, having assembled and formed a quorum. The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, while presiding at Thursday's plenary, which is also the first day of legislative business, directed the clerk to inform the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to notify the President on the lawmakers' readiness to receive messages. The Senate will also be informed of similar developments at the House of Representatives. House members passed resolutions on 2 matters of urgent public importance and thereafter went into an executive session. The Speaker, after the executive session, announced the formation of 3 other committees, namely Media, Welfare and Selection Committees. Now, there are some critical issues that cannot be forgotten with the passage of the 2019 elections and must be urgently addressed before any major election. This is coming after the United Nations Special Envoy to Africa and the Sahel Mohammed Ibn Chambers during a visit to the INEC head office in Abuja. Mia Ogidi reports.
The elections are over and those who secured the will of the electorate are settling for business. But left in its wake many memories, some regrettable, others beautiful. The long list of 91 political parties, mode of party primaries, and the legal tussles, the do-or-die nature of some candidates, and the accreditation process of party agents are the regrettable memories for the United Nations Special Envoy to Africa and the Sahel, and emergency measures are required for this emergency situation by INEC.
The number of political parties in certain elections in our West Africa and Sahel sub-region has posed a challenge recently. And it's not only here in Nigeria that we need to look at this issue of number of political parties, their mode of registration, etc.
We hope to conclude the ongoing review of the 2019 general elections in the next 2 months. These reviews have become standard practice by the Commission and involve all stakeholders across the electoral process. Immediately thereafter, we shall engage with the leadership of the 9th National Assembly. There is so much work to do.
And of fellowship that excites the INEC boss. And most of the issues will be addressed, the INEC chair promised, bearing in mind the want of time. Mia Ogidi, NT News.
This is the news on NTA International. More reports ahead when we return after this time out. Stay with us.
One Football Confederation, 24 teams, 6 stadiums, 4 cities, 504 African stars, 1 trophy. The Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2019 comes alive from June 21 with the showpiece final on July 19, 2019. Watch the 52 matches of the tournament live on Africa's biggest and largest television network, NTA, in partnership with Hot Sports. Be part of the biggest soccer fiesta in the African continent as the Super Eagles go on a bold mission to clinch the prestigious title for the 4th time, to the excitement of millions of fans across the length and breadth of Nigeria. For inquiries, please contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Thank you so much for staying with us. The Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal sitting in Abuja has fixed the 24th of June for ruling on the existence otherwise of a storage server belonging to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Inspection of the purported INEC server is one of the prayers of Atiku Abubakar of the PDP in his petition. Olabode Arewa reports.
The Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal resumed proceedings with the continuation of its pre-hearing session. Counsel to Atiku Abubakar, Chris Uche, senior advocate of Nigeria, informed the court of his earlier motion to allow an inspection of the card readers and alleged storage servers used by INEC for the February 23, 2019 presidential election. Counsel to INEC, Ustaz Usman, senior advocate of Nigeria, however prayed the tribunal to dismiss Atiku's prayer, saying INEC does not have a storage server as all the election results were collected manually. He also cited the 6th of March 2019 ruling of the court, which disallowed Atiku from inspecting any INEC server. Counsel to President Muhammadu Buhari, Wale Oladipeku, senior advocate of Nigeria, called attention to the dangers inherent in the court overturning his earlier ruling on same. The Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal deferred its ruling to the 24th of June 2019.
The court has not taken a position on it, but we're all unanimous, all the respondents, that the application should be refused.
Everybody is aware that smart card readers were used, and this transmitted both data for accreditation and the results. And now we are saying, let us all go there. These are electoral materials supervised by the court.
In a related development, the court was unable to proceed with a petition filed by Ambrose Owuru, presidential candidate of Hope Democratic Party, against President Muhammadu Buhari's victory. This is due to the inability of the party's factions to agree if they should continue with the petition. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
In still on judicial matters, the Supreme Court has sacked a 2-term House of Representatives member representing Jalingo Zing-Yori Federal Constituency, Aminu Ibrahim Male of the All Progressives Congress, and affirmed Kasimo Bello Maigari having won the All Progressive Congress's primary election conducted on the 5th of October 2018. The case was filed by Kashumo Bello Maigari after his name was allegedly substituted on the 18th of October last year with that of Aminu Male. Justice Chimanweze, who led the 5-man panel of justices, set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Yola Division, which earlier affirmed the 2-term member of the winner of the party's primary election and upheld the judgment of the trial court. Justice Nweze faltered the grounds which the appellate court used to deliver its judgment that the suit was filed out of time.
The justices also agreed that the cause of action was actually filed within time, that the cause of action actually arose from the time the appellant discovered that his name was wrongfully substituted, and not on the day which him, the appellant, won the primaries of the second respondent.
I have programs for my constituents, more especially youths. As a youth, I will make sure I empower youths, that are my colleagues, so that we can better our tomorrow.
Apex Court also ordered INEC to issue certificate of return to Kassim Obelo Maigari. And away from the judiciary, activities marking the nation's 2019 Democracy Day may have come and gone, but the memories will still linger in the minds of the people. One of such activities is the photo exhibition tagged Bin Buhari during the gala night that preceded the main event of the celebration. State House correspondent Jide Onifade tells us more.
You may be wondering what Akambi Boss is doing right here in the Hall of Fame at the State House Conference Center. Well, I'll tell you more about that. You know that the vehicle is famous for mass transit, especially in the 80s till date. But what we're going to talk about here is the inscription, the Third Coming. The Third Coming is not, however, referring to the vehicle here, but to an individual who, right from the 80s, has made incursions into the political scene of the country and known for his integrity and big heart for not only the elite, but for the commoners. And that person is President Muhammadu Buhari.
So the boss journey is also an expression of the president's journey around. He always says that he went through 36 states, including FCT. So we're looking for a representation of the energy the president put into winning this last election and the energy he has put into leading Nigeria to the next level.
This photo exhibition displays the moments of his interactions with the people over the years, especially in the last 4 years. The president is here leading other heads of states and governments to inspect the exciting moments as captured by the camera lens of Bayo Omomboriowo.
President Buhari is a legend. He's an exceptional person. His character, his personality is what any photographer would dream to document. And to me, I'm not just photographing the president, I'm preserving history. I'm telling the story of today for tomorrow's audience.
Now, the question Mr. Bayo Omobiriwo has raised with his photo exhibition is that what will history record about you at the end of the journey? In the State House, Jide Onifade, NJ News.
Let's now talk agriculture. Nigeria will soon have dedicated agro-processing zones across to boost agriculture production and socio-economic development of the country. In achieving this, the government will also take steps in addressing incessant felling of economic trees. In this report, Musa Babalu takes a look at the impact this will have on socio-economic development of the country.
Since the scrapping of agriculture commodity boards 20 years ago, Nigeria lacks effective and efficient agro-processing policy programs. Farmers and processors were left with no option than to rely on market forces for demand and supply.
Our farmers have made great strides.
President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is pushing for a new program under the Government Agriculture Diversification Initiative towards establishing crop processing zones.
Dedicated agro-industrial processing zones will be developed on a PPP basis to increase farming yields, agricultural productivity, and industrial output.
Agricultural economists are of the view that the proposed special agro-industrial processing zones be the panacea to the over-dependence on food importation.
What that translates to, again, is increased wealth earnings for farmers. Translate also to export capacity for the economy.
The federal government will also take measures to address felling of economic trees for firewood by providing more effective and alternative for energy.
Felling of trees to provide energy for domestic use is taking its toll on our rainforests, our ecology, and our climate. We will work to address this issue and support rural communities with challenges of safety switching from firewood to cooking gas.
If all these are achieved, economists are of the view that Nigeria will take her pride of place as the major producer and exporter of agricultural produce and products in Africa. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Over now to Uche Ugochukwu for news from other parts of the globe.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has urged African continents to intensify joint efforts in fighting corruption and changing the reality of the continent, which can only be achieved through concerted efforts, developing common visions and boosting African coordination mechanisms to curb corruption. Sisi was speaking during the opening session of the maiden African Anti-Corruption Forum in Egypt. The head of a major medical research charity said the latest outbreak of Ebola in Central Africa is truly frightening. Nearly 1,400 people have died in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Dr. Jeremy Farre, the director of the Wellcome Trust, said the epidemic was the worst since that of 2013 to 2016 and has shown no sign of stopping. 2 people have also died in the neighboring Uganda, with first cases of Ebola reported in the country. The Ugandan government has reported at least 6 other suspected cases of the virus. And dozens of crew members have been rescued after abandoning 2 oil tankers hit by explosion in the Gulf of Oman. Iran said it has rescued the 21 crew members on board of the Kokuka Courageous and the 23 on the Front Altair. The incident came a month after 4 oil tankers were attacked off the United Arab Emirates. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
For sporting stories, let's now join Kene Imagudike.
Encomiums continue to pour in for President Muhammadu Buhari following the renaming of Abuja National Stadium after the late Moshood Abiola, even as enthusiasts call for the edifice to become the nation's sporting hub.
Naming the stadium after Chief MK Abiola